All right, let's jump right in. A good manufacturing practice inspection, a GMP inspection, it can feel like the final exam you can't cram for. But being prepared is about so much more than just passing an audit or dodging a citation. At its very heart, it's about proving you have a quality system that ensures every single product is safe for the patient. So today, we're going to pull back the curtain on what inspectors are really looking for so you can stop being reactive and start being truly ready.
Okay, let's set the stage here. The stakes for a GMP inspection, well, they're sky high. And it's not just about compliance, it's about the basic trust that everyone puts into the products you make. And you might be surprised to find that some of the biggest challenges are the ones that just keep showing up year after year.
Now get this. This isn't some new trend. For more than a decade, the #1 issue that FDA inspectors write up has been weak CAPA systems. What does that tell us? It tells us that a lot of companies aren't just struggling to fix problems, they're struggling to keep them from happening over and over again. And that right there is a massive red flag about the health of a company's entire quality system. So that brings us to a really crucial point. How do inspectors even look at a facility these days? Well, I can tell you, they've thrown out this simple checklist. Today, it is all about applying a risk-based lens to everything they see, and it's guided by a framework called Quality Risk Management. So this definition comes straight from the ICH Q9 guideline, but let's break it down. The two magic words here are systematic and life cycle. Inspectors want to see that you have a proactive, organized process for sniffing out potential quality issues and keeping them under control, from the minute an idea is born in R&D all the way through manufacturing and out the door.
And really, this whole philosophy, this entire way of thinking, it's all built on just two foundational principles. Let's dig into what those are.
Okay, first and foremost, it all comes back to the patient, always. An inspector is constantly asking themselves, how could this little problem potentially hurt someone? Everything is viewed through that lens. And second, your response has to match the size of the risk. You don't bring a fire hose to put out a match, right? You don't need a massive month-long investigation for a tiny typo. But for a critical risk, you better believe they expect to see exhaustive effort and documentation. That logic underpins everything they do.
All right, let's shift gears to our first major pitfall. And oh boy, is it a big one in our digital age: data integrity. Think about it. If an inspector can't trust your data, there's no way they can trust your product. And to make sure your data is trustworthy, they use a framework that's become the gold standard: ALCOA.
Now, it all started with ALCOA. These 5 principles are the absolute bedrock of good documentation practices, whether you're talking about a paper logbook or a complex electronic system. They're designed to make sure that any piece of data can be relied on, no questions asked. So what does this actually look like on the floor? Well, attributable means no shared logins. Every single action is tied to a specific person and a timestamp. Legible means you can actually read it, and you'll still be able to read it 10 years from now. Contemporaneous is huge. You record things as they happen, not trying to remember what you did at the end of your shift. Original means you have the first ever recording of the data, not just a printout. And accurate? Well, that one's simple. Is it right? But as our labs and manufacturing floors got more and more sophisticated with all these complex electronic systems, new problems started popping up. Suddenly you had to worry about things like audit trails, metadata, and system validation. The original 5 principles, they just weren't enough anymore.
And that's where the plus comes in. This adds principles that are absolutely critical for electronic records. Complete means you capture everything, including failed tests and repeats. Consistent means your data follows a logical sequence. Enduring means it's stored in a validated system that's built to last. Available means an inspector can ask for it and you can pull it up right then and there. And traceable means you can follow that piece of data from the moment it was created all the way to when it's archived.
Now for our second big pitfall. And this brings us right back to that FDA finding we talked about at the beginning: weak corrective and preventative action systems, or CAPA. And inside this topic, there is one response to a problem that is an immediate, glaring red flag for any inspector.
This quote from a former FDA investigator just says it all. Blaming a problem on a lack of training is almost never the real root cause. It's a symptom of something deeper. Maybe a badly written procedure, a confusing piece of software, or just an impossible workload. When an inspector sees retraining as the fix, they don't see a solution. They just see a bunch of new questions they need to ask.
And here's the key takeaway. You have to remember, these inspectors are trained to be detectives,
They are looking for evidence that you dug deep, that you went past the easy answers, and found the true systemic root cause, because only then can you put a preventative action in place that actually stops the problem for good.
So, a strong CAPA that will actually impress an inspector looks like this. It starts with a super clear definition of the problem. It brings in a cross-functional team because, let's be real, problems rarely live in just one department. It uses real tools to find the root cause. The actions you take have to directly target that cause. And finally, and this is the part so many people miss, you have to prove that your fix actually worked. You gotta verify it.
Okay, we've talked a lot about the problems. Enough about the pitfalls, right? Let's talk solutions. How do you actually build a quality system that isn't just ready for an inspection, but is fundamentally strong and proactive? I've got 3 actionable tips for you. Tip number 1, change your entire mindset when you write something down. Stop writing for your coworker who already knows the backstory. Start writing for an auditor who is walking in cold. Assume your reader has 0 context. Tell them the complete story so they don't even have to ask follow-up questions. If you say you did training, spell it out. Who did it? What did it cover? And how did you prove it was effective? Tip number 2, make data integrity a part of your daily life, not just something you think about during an audit. Here's a simple 5-step plan. First, map out your data flows to see where everything goes. Then, assess your risks so you can focus on the most critical systems. Third, validate those systems, especially the audit trails. Fourth, bake the ALCOA Plus principles right into your SOPs and your training. And finally, keep an eye on things. Monitor and trend what you find to get better over time.
And our final tip really pulls it all together. If you truly want to solve problems at their root, you have to break down those invisible walls between departments. You have to empower a cross-functional team.
And look, the difference is just night and day. With a siloed approach, everyone's looking at the problem from their own little corner. You only see one piece of the puzzle, and you almost always miss the real root cause. But a cross-functional team, with people from quality, engineering, production, suddenly you're solving the problem from every single angle. The solutions are stronger, they last longer, and the problem is way less likely to pop up again. That is exactly the kind of smart, systemic thinking an inspector loves to see.
So I want to leave you with this one question to really think about. Is your quality system something that you feel like you have to defend, something you have to make excuses for during an inspection? Or is it a system so robust, so proactive, and so completely focused on the patient that it's something you are genuinely proud to show off? Making that shift in perspective, well, that's the real key to being inspection ready, today and every day.